Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students and scholars, teachers and trainers, professors and professionals, listeners and learners, those who are listening, watching from the field of arts, commerce, science and engineering, the most honorable President Modi ji, respected ministers and doctors, honorable advocates, advertisers, administrators and advisors, Reverend fathers and mothers, affectionate sons and daughters, I, Dr. Rakesh from USA, heartily cordially welcome all of you. It is really nice time, nice place, nice section. We are praising, appreciating. Correct usage, subject verb agreement. A verb must agree with its subject in number and person. Often by what is called the error of proximity, the verb is made to agree in number with a noun near it instead of with its proper subject. This should be avoided. The quality of the mangoes was not good. The introduction of tea and coffee and such other beverages has not been without some effect. His knowledge of Indian vernaculars is far beyond the common. The state of his affairs was such as to cause an anxiety to his creditors. If it were possible to get near when one of the volcanic eruption takes place, we should see a grand sight. The results of the recognition of this fact are seen in the gradual improvement of the diet of the poor. Two or more singular nouns or pronouns joined by and require a plural verb. Gold and silver are precious metals. For example, gold and silver are precious metals. Fire and water do not agree. Knowledge and wisdom have of times no connection. Are you father and mother at home? In him were centered their love and their ambition. He and I were playing. But if the nouns suggest one idea to the mind or refer to the same person or thing, the verb is singular. Time and tide waits for none. Time and tide waits for no man. The horse and carriage is at the door. Bread and butter is his only food. Honor and glory is his reward. The rise and fall of the tide is due to lunar influence. My friend and benefactor has come. The novelist and poet is dead. Words joined to a singular subject by with as well as etc. are parenthetical. The verb should therefore be put in the singular. For example, the house with its contents was insured. The mayor with his councillors is to be present. The ship with its crew was lost. Silver as well as cotton has fallen in price. Sanskrit as well as Arabic was stored there. Justice as well as mercy allows it. The guidance as well as the love of a mother was wanting. Two or more singular subjects connected by or nor require a singular verb. For example, no nook or corner was left unexplored. Our happiness or our sorrow is largely due to our own actions. Either the cat or the dog has been here. Neither food nor water was to be found here. Neither praise nor blame seems to affect him. But when one of the subjects joined by or or nor is plural, the verb must be plural and the plural subject should be placed nearest the verb, as neither the chairman nor the directors are present. When the subjects joined by or or nor are of different persons, the verb agrees with the nearer edge. Either he or I am mistaken. Either you or he is mistaken. Neither you nor he is to blame. Neither my friend nor I am to blame. But it is better to avoid these constructions and to write, he is mistaken or else I am. You are mistaken or else he is. He is not to blame, nor are you. My friend is not to blame, nor am I. Either, neither, each, everyone, many, must be followed by a singular verb. For example, he asked me whether either of the applicants was suitable. Neither of the two men was very strong. Each of these substances is found in India. Every one of the prisons is full. Every one of the boys loves to write. Many a man has done so. Many a man does not know his own good deeds. Many a man has succumbed to this temptation. Two nouns qualified by each or every, even though connected by and require a singular verb. For example, every boy and every girl was given a packet of sweets. Some nouns which are plural in form but singular in meaning take a singular verb. The news is true. Here you see, here you listen, some nouns which are plural in form. Such noun seems plural but are singular in meaning. Take a singular verb. For example, the news is true. Politics was with him the business of his life. The wages of sin is death. The mathematics is a branch of study in every school. Change and means take either the singular or the plural verb, but the construction must be consistent. For example, great pains have been taken. All possible means have been tried. Much pains has been taken. The means enjoyed by you is sufficient. In the sense of income, the word means always takes a plural verb. For example, my means were much reduced owing to that heavy loss. His means are ample. Some nouns which are singular in form but Some nouns which are singular in form but plural in meaning take a plural verb. According to the present market rate, 12 dozen cost 100 rupees. None, though properly singular, commonly takes a plural verb. For example, none are so deaf as those who will not hear. Cows are amongst the Cows are amongst the gentlest of breathing creature. None show more passionate tenderness to their young. A collective noun takes a singular verb when the collection is thought of as one as whole. Plural verb when the individuals of which it is composed are thought of as the committee has issued its report. The committee are divided on one minor point. We must be consistent, thus we should say the committee has appended a note to its report. When the plural noun is a proper name for some single object or some collective unit, it must be followed by a singular verb. For example, the Arabian Nights is still a great favorite. The United States has a big navy. Plutarch's Lives is an interesting book. Gulliver's Travels was written by Swift. When a plural noun denotes some specific quantity or amount considered as a whole, the verb is generally singular as, for example, 15 minutes is allowed to each speaker. 10 kilometers is a long walk. 50,000 rupees is a large sum. 3 parts of the business is left for me to do. Nouns and pronouns. Words like book, table, flower, apple are countable nouns. They are things that can be counted. Such nouns can have plural forms and are used with a or an. Words like ink, milk, gold, and wisdom are uncountable nouns. They are things that cannot be counted. Normally, uncountable nouns do not have plural forms and cannot be used with a or an. Note that the following nouns are usually uncountable in English: advice, news, information, furniture, luggage, work, business, weather, traffic, scenery, paper, bread. Most of these are countable in Indian languages and therefore Indian students often wrongly use them with a or an and in the plural. What is wrong? He gave me an advice. What's right? He gave me some advice or a piece of advice. What's wrong? The sceneries here are very good. What's right? The scenery here is very good. If you are thinking of one separate item or unit of an uncountable thing, you may say a piece of or bottle of, etc. A piece of advice, a piece of work, a piece or bar of soap, a bottle of milk. The use of the possessive or genitive case should be confined to the following: names of living beings and personified objects. For example, the governor's bodyguards, the lion's mane, nature's law, fortune's favorite. Names of living beings and personified objects. A few stereotyped phrases, for example, for conscience's sake, for goodness sake, at his fingers' ends, out of army's way, the boat's crew. Nouns of space or time denoting an amount of something. For example, a day's work, a hand's breadth, a hand's breadth in a year's time. When two nouns in the possessive case are in apposition, the apostrophe with us is added to the last only, as this is my uncle, the engineer's office, my brother Harry's watch, for thy servant David's sake. When one noun is qualified by two possessive nouns, both must have the possessive sign unless joint possession is indicated. The king and queen's journey to India, Huntley and Palmer's biscuits. Grammarians formerly recommended that the complement of the verb to be, when it is expressed by a pronoun, should be in the nominative case. Today, the use of the nominative form is considered extremely formal and overcorrect. We usually use the objective form. It is me, it was him. The object of a verb or of a preposition, when it is pronoun, should be in the objective form. For example, between you and me, affairs look dark. There is really no difference between you and me. Let you and me do it. Please let Jack and me go to the theater. Her means not she. Her, who had been the apple of his eye, he now began to regard with something like disgust. Him, who had always inspired in her respect, which almost overcame her affection. She now saw the object of open pleasantry. He has given great trouble to my father and me. A pronoun directly after than or as is usual in the objective case, unless there is a verb after it. If a verb follows it, the nominative form is used. He is taller than me. He is taller than I am. I swim better than him. Swim better that he does. I am as tall as her. I am as tall as she is. The nominative form without a verb after it. He is taller than I is old-fashioned. A pronoun must agree with its antecedent in person, number, and gender. All passengers must show their tickets. Every man must bear his own burden. Each of the girls gave her own version of the affair. I am not one of those who believe everything they hear. In referring to anybody, everybody, everyone, anyone, each, etc., the pronoun of the masculine or the feminine gender is used according to the context. For example, I shall be glad to help every one of my boys in his studies. What pronoun should be used to refer back to anybody, everybody, everyone, each, etc. When the sex is not determined, some grammarians recommend that the pronoun of the masculine gender should be used, as there is no singular pronoun of the third person to represent both male and female. Anybody can do it if he tries. Everyone ran as fast as he could. In present day English, anybody, everyone, etc. are often followed by a plural pronoun, except in very formal speech or writing. Anybody can do it if they try. Everyone ran as fast as they could. Each of them had their share. The indefinite pronoun one should be used throughout if used at all. One cannot be too careful about what one says. One cannot be too careful of one's good name. One does not like to have one's word doubted. One must not boast of one's own success. One must use one's best efforts if one wishes to succeed. Cannot one do what one likes with one's own? It is better to change the form of the sentence than to keep on repeating one. None is construed in the singular or plural as the sense may require as. Did you buy any mangoes? There were none in the market. Have you bought me a better? Have you bought me a letter? There was none for you. When the singular equally well expresses the sense, the plural is commonly used as. None of these words are now currently used. None of his poems are well known. None but fools have believed it. Anyone should be used when more than two persons or things are spoken of, as she was taller than anyone of her five sisters. Each, either, and neither are distributive pronouns, calling attention to the individuals forming a collection and must accordingly be followed by verbs in the singular. Each of the scholars has done well. Each of the men was paid 20 rupees. Neither of them was invited to the party. Neither of the accusation is true. Either of the roads leads to the railway station. He asked whether either of the brothers was at home. Be careful to use who means nominative and whom means objective correctly. There is Mr. Dutt, who they say is the best portrait painter in the town. Who they were, I really cannot specify. I was the man who was I was the man who they thought was dead. He was the man who they determined should be the next mayor. There are some who I think are clever. There are many who we know quite well are honest. One evening of each week was set apart by him for the reception of whosoever chose to visit him. Who did you say was there? Who do you think she is? They were a people whom it was not advisable to excite. The student whom you thought so highly of has failed to win the first prize. Whom do you wish? Who do you believe him to be? Not that today whom is not usual except in formal English. Who replaces whom in spoken English? Who did you meet? Who are you going with? This is the man who I talked about this morning as a relative pronoun who replaces whom only in defining clauses. When the O subject of a verb is a relative pronoun, care should be taken to see that the verb agrees in number and person with the antecedent of the relative. For example, this is one of the most interesting novels that have appeared this year. He is one of the cleverest boys that have passed through the school. One of the greatest judges that have ever lived laid this down as law. It was one of the best speeches that have ever been made in the parliament. This is the only one of his poems that is worth reading. A definite word as the antecedent of the relative pronoun which make the sentence easier to understand than is possible otherwise. Thus the sentence, his foot slipped, which caused him to fall heavily, would be easier reading and hence better as his foot slipped and this caused him to fall heavily. Similarly, we should say, I went home for my umbrella and this prevented me from being in time. I gave him a swan and this left me penniless. He fell heavily and this caused him great pain, and which, the relative itself fulfills the purpose of a conjunction, hence no conjunction should be placed before it except to join together two relative clauses referring to the same antecedent as. For example, he possessed a sandalwood table which was of excellent workmanship and which had been in his family for generations. But the following sentences are incorrect. He has wardrobes of wonderful carving and which has been in his family for generations. They wish me to drink with them, but which I declined. What are an adjectives? The adjective is correctly used with a verb when some quality of the subject rather than of the action of the verb is to be expressed as the flowers smell sweet, she looks dainty. That statement sounds queer. It tastes sour. He feels sad. As a general rule, if any phrase denoting manner could be substituted, the adverb should be used, but if some part of the verb to be could be employed as a connective, the adjective is required. The ship appeared suddenly. The decision appears unjust. His friends now began to look coldly upon him. He looks cold. We feel warmly on the subject. We feel warm. He spoke angrily. He looked angrily. He looked angry. The plural forms these and those are often used with the singular nouns kind and sort as. These kind of things, such a form of expression is, however, constantly heard and occurs in good writers. Some grammarians insist that we should say this kind of things or better things of this kind. The words superior, inferior, senior, junior, prior, anterior and posterior take to instead of then edge. As a novelist, Jane Austen is superior. Jane Austen is superior to Mrs. Henry Wood. Harry is inferior to Rama in intelligence. The death of King Edward VII was prior to World War I. He is senior to me. In comparing two things or classes of things, the comparative should be used as of the two suggestions, the former is the better. Of the two novels, this is the more interesting. Which is the cheaper of the two? He is the taller of the two. This rule is, however, not strictly observed. In informal English, the superlative is often used when we talk about one of only two items. We can use best, most interesting, cheapest, and tallest in the sentences above when a comparison is instituted by means of a comparative followed by then. The thing compared must be always excluded from the class of things with which it is compared by using other or some such words as he is stronger than any other man living. The sentence he is stronger than any man living suggests that the person referred to is stronger than himself, which is of course absurd. Mussolini may be said to have done more for the unity of Italy than any other man. The Nile is said to be longer than all other rivers in the eastern hemisphere. The Taj is more beautiful than all other mausoleums. Solomon was wiser than all other men. In a comparison by means of a superlative, the later term should include the former age. Solomon was the wisest of all men. The crocodile is the largest of all reptiles. The Amazon is the largest of all rivers. The Amazon is the largest of all rivers. Of all men, he is the strongest. Of any is often used incorrectly in conjunction with a superlative edge. He has the lightest touch of any musician. This should be rewritten as follows. He has a lighter touch than any other musician. No other musician has so light its touch. A very common form of error is exemplified in this following sentence. The population of London is greater than any city in India. Say the population of London is greater than that of any city in India. The comparison is between the population of London and the population of any city in India. Double comparatives and superlatives are to be avoided through their use. Was once common in English, thus we have in Shakespeare. It was the most unkindest cut of all. The following sentence is incorrect. Seldom had the little town seen a more costlier funeral, but lesser is used even by the best authors. The lesser of the two evils. Preferable has the force of a comparative and is followed by two. We must not say more preferable. He has a scheme of his own which he thinks preferable to that of any other person. Less means the comparative of little is used before uncountable nouns, while fewer, the comparative of few is used before plural nouns. However, less is also often used before plural nouns in formal English. No fewer or less than 50 miners were killed in the explosion. Certain adjectives do not really admit of comparison because their meaning is already superlative as unique, ideal, perfect, complete, universal, entire, extreme, cheap, square, noun. Do not therefore say most unique, quite unique, chiefest, extremist. But we still say, for instance, this is the most perfect specimen I have seen. Older and oldest may be said either of persons or of things, while elder and the eldest apply to persons only and are besides, strictly speaking, confined to members of the same family. Gladstone was older than Morley. Gladstone was older than Morley. He will succeed to the little in the event of the death of his elder brother. Patricia is the eldest of the Vicar's family. Old farmer Hills is the oldest inhabitant in our village. The two first is a meaningless expression, for it implies that two things may be first. We should say the first two. The first two chapters of the novel are rather dull. The first two boys were awarded gold medals. Few and a few have different meanings. Few is negative and equivalent to not many, hardly any. A few is positive and equivalent to some. Few persons can keep a secret. A few words spoken in earnest will convince him. Later is often wrongly used for last. Use use latter when there are two only. Last when there are more. Of the three, tea, coffee, and cocoa, the last in his favorite. Verbal is often wrongly used for oral. Verbal means of or pertaining to words. Oral means delivered by word of mouth, not written. Hence, the opposite of written is oral, not verbal. His written statement differs in several important respects from his oral statement. The lad was sent with an oral message to the doctor. There are a few verbal differences in the two manuscripts. The photograph will give the reader a far better notion of the structure than any verbal description. Where your instructions, oral or written, do not say our mutual friend. The proper expression is our common friend. They were introduced to each other by a common friend. We happened to meet at the house of a common friend. Dear friends, next topic, you are listening verbs. The subject of the sentence should not be left without a verb. The following sentence is incorrect. He who has suffered most in the cause, let him speak. Recast as shown below. Let him who has suffered most in the cause speak. He who had suffered most in the cause should speak. A verb should agree with its subject and not with the complement as what is wanted. Is not large houses with modern conveniences but small colleges. The details are a matter for future consideration. Our followers are but a handful. In a compound sentence, a single verb can be made to do duty for two subjects only when the form of the verb is such as to permit of it. As note, a drum was heard, not a funeral note. But the following sentence is incorrect because the subjects are not in the same number. He died, his diet was his diet was abstemious, his prayers long and fervent. We should rewrite it as follows. His diet was abstemious, his prayers were long and fervent. In a sentence like this, Mr. Fowler regards the ellipsis as permissible. Two auxiliaries can be used with one principal verb only when the form of the principal verb is appropriate to both the auxiliaries, as I never have heard anybody and never will. No state can or will adopt this drastic measure. But the following sentence is incorrect. He never has and never will take such strong measures. Rewrite it as follows. He never has taken and never will take such strong measures. When there is only one auxiliary to two principal verbs, it should be such that it may be correctly associated with both. 10 writers have been sentenced and 5 acquitted. But both the but the following sentence is incorrect. 10 new members have been enrolled and 7 resigned. Rewrite it as 10 new members have been enrolled and 7 have resigned. Carefully distinguish between the verbs lay and lie. The verb lay is transitive and is always followed by an object. The verb lie is intransitive and cannot have an object. Lay the child down to sleep. I laid the book on the table. The hen has laid an egg. Let me lie here. He lay under that pipal tree. An infinitive should be in the present tense unless it represents action prior to that of the governing verb, as I should have liked to go. But we correctly say he seems to have enjoyed his stay at Mahabaleshwaram. A common blunder is to leave the participle without proper agreement or with no agreement at all. H. Sitting on the gate. A scorpion stung him. Here the word scorpion, to which the principal sitting refers grammatically, is not that with which it is meant to be connected in sense. In other words, the participle is left without proper agreement. We should therefore recast it as shown below. Sitting on the gate, he was stung by a scorpion. While he was sitting on the gate, a scorpion stung him. Now read the following sentences where the participle is left with no agreement at all. Being a very hot day, I remained in my tent. Here the sentence contains no word to which the participle can possibly refer. We should therefore write as it was a very hot day. I remained in my tent. Usage, however, permits in certain cases constructions like the following. Considering his abilities, he should have done better. Roughly speaking, the distance from here to the nearest railway station is 2 miles. Taking everything into consideration, his lot is a happy one. It will be noticed that in each sentence the unexpressed subject is indefinite. Thus, taking everything into consideration, if one should take everything into consideration. A present participle should not be used to express an action which is not contemporaneous with the action of the principal verb. The following sentence is therefore incorrect. He sailed for New York on Monday, arriving there on Saturday. Rewrite it as follows. He sailed for New York on Monday and arrived there on Saturday. The subjunctive mood is sometimes wrongly used for the indicative when the statement introduced by if or thorough, when the statement